You're watching The Insight here on TV 47. My name is Dibala Nair, where we slice and dice the politics of the week that has been and, of course, how the week has panned out so far. And the big day is all about the IBC and the clearance of the nominees that have been nominated by the political parties. And this is all about the upcoming by-elections, the mini-polls that we're going to be having in the country on November the 27th. So also the campaigns officially begins today and it will be ending on November the 24th. And this is what we want to be looking at with our panelists and discussing also a range of other issues regarding the politics of the day. But I'll be remiss if I don't show you the publication of tomorrow's Star. This is fresh off the press and this is what is on the front page of the publication. Treasury data, it says state borrowed 6 billion shillings per week in 4 months. And looking at the flag on top here, country borrowing 795.8 million shillings day and 532.4 million shillings every hour. That story is well fleshed out for you on page 6 of tomorrow's Star. Also in the sidebar report, how MPs crippled IBC almost derailed the 2027 elections. And this is all about the IBC chairman, Erastus KANU, can be seen here on September the 25th. You can read all the details about this on page 7 of the Star today. Let me show you the way Matiang'i caught Natembeya. And you can see them holding court there. This is Dr. Fred Matiang'i and Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya condoling with Peter Munya following the death of his grandmother, Mama Mwakairu Rukunga. And you can read the rest of the details inside the publication. On top there, looking at the teaser, lip service, state locks youth special groups out of tender billions. That story is well fleshed out for you to page 4 and 5 of the Star. And financial mess, Busia organized criminal enterprise, say senators. You can read all about it on page 8. Remember, the senators are holding the meetings, the senatorial meetings in Busia. So you're bound to get a lot of this, and you can read the rest of the story on page 8 of the publication. This is the Star. Right, let's buckle down to our discussion as I unveil my panelists. Actually, we're eagerly waiting to be joined by Didmus Baraza, but we have with us already in studio. This is KANU Nairobi gubernatorial aspirant Tony Gachoka. The man himself is all decked out in red today. I was just telling him he's just fallen short of coming with a cockerel to the studio. A live one, for that matter. Good to see you.
Habari ndugu.
Mzuri sana, good to see you. How are you?
Lovely to be here and talking to you. Up at TV 47, when I was last here, you brought Peter Kaluma.
Yes, yes.
I've looked around, I can't see him anywhere near. I hope I didn't scare him.
The last time we spoke, he said he's going to Kasipul. You know, also Kasipul is one of the 24 electoral, of course, areas that have been declared vacant. Yeah, so he's in Kasipul trying to ramp up also some votes for ODM.
Yeah, I think it's an important litmus test. The country has had both discussions. The debate has been robust by government. I must also think with the changes with Kindiki, there has been an uptick of discussions beyond the presidency of Ruto in touching areas that were otherwise untouchable. These by-elections will be a litmus test as to whether either Musalia Mudavadi in the west of the country and Baba Raila Odinga and ODM or Kindiki have made a difference. After all this pep talk, by-elections come in. And they sometimes have a rude way of awakening the nation. History cannot be far from the facts because you remember Amos Kimunya and Kipipiri. A lot of Kenyans remember Musambweni. There have been by-elections that surprised the country. And I think between now and the 27th of November, the country will be looking at very, very key by-elections to be able to test where Kenyans are. I was looking yesterday at the numbers of registered voters, and it's quite worrisome that the Gen Z voters are not registering in the numbers that people are expecting. And so questions will arise. How or will the Gen Zs affect the next general elections? Is it enough for them to have shown up and protested, or do they need to actually back up their protest with a vote? These questions are not going to be tested in this by-election, but they'll be tested in the political culture of the country as to whether this is a democratic state where despondency and protests manifest themselves into elections. Mm-hmm. It will be a measure as to young people and their seriousness of leadership, and also removing and replacing leaders with leaders they want. Mm-hmm. So I don't see this as a referendum on William Ruto. I see it as also a referendum of the Gen Z movement, and whether or not they say what they mean and mean what they say.
But people will chalk it up to maybe it's too early in the day. This is still an ongoing process. So the reason why we have the slow uptake of the voter registration with the Gen Z.
All you and I can do is tell them that the rate upon which people register, also amplifies the interest. So if people do this in a mediocre way at the beginning, it might continue this way toward the end. I'm just simply saying to the young people of this country, they have no choice. This is a moment of crisis. They must register to vote and vote whichever way they want, but they must not forget that theirs is a historical obligation, because their generation is the generation that matters. Mm-hmm. And they need to vote, and they need to vote, they must register. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say about that, maybe they will not come later as there are many. Mm-hmm. I just want to say that they will encourage, because those who are 16 now will register in 2017 and be voters. Mm-hmm. This is a continuous voter registration process. It is not sporadic or temporary, or it is continuous. And therefore, it is my prayer that what begins now as a culture of getting involved in your country should actually manifest itself, yes, in the streets, yes, on Twitter and on social media, but also in the votes that you have, so that you can have governments that are accountable to you and that are elected by you.
Indeed, indeed. Of course, and we shall be looking at that more keenly and deeply. We'll drill deeper and get granular with it much, much later. But let's just get also some clarity. And you have been also one person who has been backed in the system within ODM previously. Now you're in KANU. You want to tell us also why you exited from ODM to KANU, why KANU is your choice also of a party to be running, and the Nairobi gubernatorial seat. But talking of the health of the ODM party leader, you've seen also, just from a story we just ran, that IDA also is coming to just make sure that we get the clarity and pacify the public who are wondering where is Raila Odinga. I wonder, you are also a close confidant of Raila Odinga. Have you made any calls? Yeah. Have you talked to him lately?
So
is he in mint condition?
So I want to start by acknowledging that, Mama Ida Odinga is my mother, my political mother.
Yes.
So when she speaks, I get a bit concerned. I wanted to tell Mama Ida of the comments of Dr. Maya. Dr. Maya said that integrity, first of all, is telling yourself the truth. Dr. Maya also said that honesty is telling the truth to other people. Dr. Maya then said, truth without love is brutality. And he said, without love, truth is a hypocrisy. And he said, an unbelieved truth can hurt a man much more than a lie. So my message to Mama Ida and the people who love Raila is that when people have an unbelieved truth, it is worse than a lie. I want to repeat myself. When you have an unbelieved truth, it is worse than a lie. The way in which the matter of Mheshimiwa Raila is being handled is not professional, it's not just to the people of Kenya, and it's not just to Honorable Raila Odinga. Health issues have met great men in this country before. I remember this was the argument with the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, when people surrounded him when he was unwell in Mombasa, and it took a very long time for his inner circle to actually tell retired President Moi, late President Moi, that Kenyatta had died. It was a major issue of secrecy. This issue also happened with the late Wamalwa Kijana when he was taken ill and taken to London. And these issues of health, in Kenya, we don't have a good history of being honest. What I know from my brother Raila, and I haven't rung him, but I want to ring him, is that he has, over the years, been subjected to atrocious prison conditions. He had been detained for over 8 years. He has problems with his eyes, and he continues sometimes to need, to cushion his eye from a tear that comes from that era of detention. Honorable Raila Odinga suffers from diabetes, and he has managed it well with a good health regime and with good gym and so forth. And so he's been quite healthy, but I do know at some point his back used to bother him quite a lot. And he had done a lot to handle the back, and he had been even to 1 or 2 hospitals in Dubai. And the reason Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga went to Dubai is because German hospitals have moved their care in the best facilities in Dubai. So you don't actually fly to Germany to get the top European care. Mm-hmm. And so he has been going there from time to time on his back. Now, my worry is that with Mzee's problems in terms of, the diabetes and the age which he now has, mm-hmm. I worry if this has now become a serious problem because, diabetes is not good for any person at any age. Mm-hmm. And I think that when I heard Karuri Omondi, the MP, the other day saying that we should pray for Raila, it worried me because I worked with Karuri Omondi at the office of the Prime Minister. Mm-hmm. And he was the chief of staff. And then there was Mohamed Isahakia, who was the PS, mm-hmm. and Tony Gachoka as director of protocol. So if Karuri is saying, let's pray for Mzee, I'm concerned. So my message to Mama Aida and others is, in the words of Dr. Maya, even if it is true, that Mzee is okay, an unbelieved truth can be worse than a lie. I would urge transparency. I would urge that there be doctors. In the case of the late President Mwai Kibaki, Dan Gekonyo and his hospital team would come out and many times say, President Kibaki has been admitted at Nairobi Hospital, and this was his problem. And Kenyans took it. Mm-hmm. Mwai Kibaki was in Nairobi Hospital for more than 1 year, and the government was being run by his people. At that time, Matere Kireri, Christopher Morongaro, and others. But Kenyans knew the state of their president, Mwai Kibaki. And even during the election, His Excellency Raila Odinga told the country that the captain has been injured, but I'm taking over. Mm-hmm. There was nothing about the Kibaki injury that was hidden. So to all those people who love Raila and those that love him, including me, my advice is let's be transparent about any issue that could be facing him, because we all want to pull together to pray for Raila. We would all want to pray, pull together to wish him well. But it's very difficult when it looks like it's a competition. Mm-hmm. Who's right and who is wrong.
Who's wrong.
Anybody can be
even within the communications department of ODM.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, they posted a picture the other day of Mzee in a hospital where people were zooming in and seeing Arabic writing and King's Hospital. And it was not consistent. Normally, the spokesman of the Raila Odinga family is Dr. Oburu Odinga. And normally, when Mzee, for example, got COVID, Oburu Odinga said, I went to see my brother in Nairobi Hospital. He got COVID. And after this will happen, and he'll be released. And nobody raised an issue. When Mzee went to Dubai for care, Dr. Oburu Odinga again released a statement. But when it reaches a point now where Mama Aida Odinga, who's my political mother and a very good friend of mine, has to be put to have to come to clarify,
yes.
It means that the matter is now getting untidy. And I think it's not about Raila Odinga. It's not about ODM. It's about the Kenyan nation, because Baba holds a place in this country where, regardless of politics, people would want to know his state of health. And I tell you why. Because, you see, the matters facing this country largely lie on ODM and what ODM is going to do. There was a postponement of ODM at 20, which was meant to be in Mombasa.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, Mzee is now not there. So, you know, Kenyans are beginning to ask the question, is there something not happening here? I remember in the regime of Mwai Kibaki, when the agro-leasing scandal broke, there was a very big question about the people surrounding Mwai Kibaki. And 5 of them were fired. It later became clear that there was a conspiracy within State House. Matere Kireri was fired, Christopher Murungaru was fired, Kiraito Murungi was fired, and in fact the minister then of finance was fired, Mwiraria. And the agro-recent scandals saw the change of guard at State House. So, you know, it is very important when these things happen and the public asks questions that what is going on. So Kibaki's reaction at that time of coming back into power was to bring in George Mohoho, bring in Michuki, and stabilize the government. And Mudhaura became his de facto leader of government, and government ikatulia. Sasa wakati huu, Wanakenya wote katika mbinu zote za Kenya wanauliza mzee yuko aje, baba yuko namna gani. Na baba ni mtu ajifichi. Baba ni mtu anaweza wasiliana na Wakenya kwa video, anaweza wasiliana na Wakenya, you know, hapo.
Because everyone was wondering, of course, in this epoch of time that we're living in, why can't you just maybe post a video and say, hey, I'm in peak health, I'm all well. This is where I'm actually taking my rest.
The US, the US election was lost because the Democratic Party of the US hid the condition of President Biden. President Biden was unwell, and it exhibited itself in a debate where he didn't perform well with Donald Trump. And after that, now in her book, Kamala Harris, the de facto leader of the Democratic presidential bid, is now saying, I wish I'd done more. To be honest with Americans, that Joe Biden was unwell and he could not have been able to hack it. So I think that this question of Raila is important. And yes, he's my friend. And there is nobody I would wish better and quick health than Mzee.
So why do you think they
should handle it differently?
Yeah, there's this bugbears and fears regarding, you know, making or giving us a true state of his health to the public. Does it have any implications on the political dynamics in the country from your reading?
I gave you the example of the Democratic race.
Yes.
Many pundits would argue that if Joe Biden had left the race 2 years before, earlier and so on, there would have been better time for a democratic process to choose a candidate to become the nominee of the Democratic Party. Because he did not do that in time, Kamala Harris became the candidate by default. There was no time to create a new candidate. The politics right now in Kenya is very clear. William Ruto is sleeping on nails. William Ruto's government has been disposed since the Gen Z rebellion or revolution of 25th June 2024. The only reason William Ruto is breathing as a president in power is because ODM is there to save him. And ODM is Baba. Akisema left, tunaenda left. Sema right, tunaenda right. And those are the words of leaders of ODM. So in the absence of Baba, the broad-based government and Ruto's safety in terms of, you know, surviving between now and 2027 all becomes questionable. So it is a nightmare for William Ruto that they cannot be able to confirm the well-being of Baba. And the young people, if you just look at the social media and look at the way they are reacting to how Baba is unwell, you can see that they are almost, you know, siding with the issue that, look, without Baba, we can deal with William Ruto. It's now become an issue beyond Baba's health, beyond the issue of whether Baba is well or unwell. It's about whether, without Baba, ODM can remain a member of the broad-based government. I'm saying this because, you know, history is very, very interesting. I remember, you know, when the late George Saitoti had that tragic accident, I remember sitting with two very close friends, and I asked myself, where we were discussing with them, if George Saitoti had not had a tragic accident, what would have happened to the Uhuru Kenyatta bid to be president? How important would it have been to face off with George Saitoti, who had been harboring presidential ambitions for a while? When George Ogola died, the famous KDF person, a lot of people started asking themselves, will we have integrity in the Kenyan military? So the questions which Kenyans have to raise are questions that if ODM is the critical pillar that is holding this government together, and ODM is BABA, then BABA's health is a critical issue, as it was in America on Joe Biden, as it was in Kenya when Kenyatta became unwell and Kenyatta passed away. In fact, those who are plotting the Kenyatta inheritance, they could not plan because Kenyatta died before they were ready. They had said Kenya would never be taken over by Daniel Moi. But as they were plotting for President Moi never to take over, Kenyatta died before they were ready. And so I want to say, and I want to be clear to the country, that when you have a man of Raila Odinga's stature, and you have him in the condition that is not known, you begin to make people disbelieve, whatever communication comes from the government or from his handlers. And when that happens, you erode the confidence they have in the broad-based government. And in the short, medium, and long term, that can add to the political fuel of the so-called Ruto must go movement. So this is, in my view, a critical point.
But isn't this particular broad-based government also predicated on the memorandum of understanding that they do have, right? That if Baba is there or not, still they have a memorandum of understanding which will act like a linchpin to see, if, of course, the entire broad-based government run through 2027.
If this broad-based agreement or MOU was a broad-based agreement of people, then there would be no worry. The only problem, there is chaos right now in the minds of those in government, is that this MOU is between two people, Raila Amolo Odinga and William Samoei Ruto. And therefore, it's so fragile because if neither of those two are there, their people are not connected. Let me be very clear for avoidance of doubt. The constituency that Edwin Sifuna keeps talking about, the rank and file of ODM, are not in the broad-based government, the people. And therefore, they are only there kwa heshima ya mzee, ya baba. And William Ruto is aware of that issue. And that is why the questions are this. If Mheshimiwa Mzee Raila was unwell and was in a Nairobi hospital, why fly him at night outside the country to take him elsewhere if he needs better care? It should be a statement of the government, jointly with ODM, that Mzee Raila was taken ill yesterday at Nairobi hospital, and he had this and these procedures. And his doctors would come out there at Nairobi hospital and say, in order that we are sure what is going on, we have advised that we fly the Prime Minister for better care. This matter would be transparent. The issue I'm raising here is because in Ruto's desire to keep Mzee by his side, he may allow bad mistakes, bad statements to be made by the people who love Raila. Because you see, people are confusing the love of Raila with the government's inaction, to be honest. So what I'm simply saying in a nutshell is this. The country makes an announcement of presidents, retired and otherwise, whatever happens to them. And there is a procedure how it's done. I gave you the example of Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki was admitted and stayed at Nairobi Hospital, not in London, for a year when he was unwell. But no Kenyan had a problem because his doctors briefed the country and all the country was aware that Mwai Kibaki was unwell. All we are asking today is for us to know what is the condition of Mzee. And assuming Mzee comes back to the country in a few days' time,
yes,
it is important for Raila himself to be honest and say, look, I was unwell for a couple of days. I underwent this procedure. And Anyang' Nyong'o is one of my best friends in this country. Anyang' Nyong'o went and beat cancer. The Honorable Beth Mogo went and beat cancer. The late Robaso beat cancer. There's nothing wrong with telling the Kenyan people that I had this problem, I fought, and I won. So I think I would urge Mama Aida, I would urge the people that love Raila as I do, let us just be honest and let us be clear. If the Prime Minister is okay, let's say so. If he's unwell, let us say why. And if he's got treatment that has helped him and the country, let us say so. In terms of me coming to an end on this issue, I want to say that the reason why the ODM MPs have decided to politicize this matter has concerned me. That, you know, there is a letter from Dennis Onyango that says Kalonzo Musyoka, Rigathi Gachagua, Eugene Wamalwa, and so on are spreading these rumors. I would want to ask Dennis Onyango not to do that. I would also want to ask the leaders of the opposition not to reply, because either of them can't be right. Because the issue here is not who is right or wrong, is whether Mzee is well. So I would want to ask for a de-escalation.
But one will wonder, was there any modicum of truth from the united opposition, right? Because it seems also they know something that we do not know.
I have not heard anyone in the opposition speak about Raila's health. What I saw was a letter or a statement signed by Dennis Onyango alleging that the media, social media, you know, statements were engineered by the opposition. Now, I know Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka as long as I know Raila. Kalonzo Musyoka is a Christian man, a man who's battled his own wife's illness, Pauline,
yes.
for so many years. Kalonzo can never be part of anything that can attack the integrity of Raila's health. And I want to tell Dennis Onyango, you are choosing the wrong man. Kalonzo Musyoka has supported Raila Odinga 3 times. Why would you tell the country that Kalonzo is paying people to say Raila is sick? I am in KANU. I'm with Gideon Moi. I'm not with Kalonzo. But the issues that Dennis Onyango has put to the country are wrong. And I must stand here to defend the Wiper leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, as being only a faithful friend to Raila. And it's very, very painful when a very junior member of the media team of Raila Odinga can make such a statement, and not about whether Raila is healthy or not healthy, but the fact that the rumors or the bad wishes were being engineered by the opposition. Who in heaven's name would do such a thing? And I also think, in my view, that if I were the advisor of Rigathi Gachagua, I would advise him not to respond. I noticed that he responded to this issue. I would tell him not to respond. Why are you responding? If Raila is healthy, let it be so. His family and his doctors will respond. Rigathi Gachagua should stop discussing Raila's health completely, whether he knows or he doesn't know.
Respectfully, yeah.
Yeah, just leave it alone. Do other things. It's not your business. You're not a doctor. And just leave it alone. And I'm getting tired, also coming from Mount Kenya and being a Kikuyu, that every day people are making these things look tribal. I mean, and so I want to ask the former deputy president, some of these things, work a break. You don't have to comment on everything. If people allege that you have said something about Raila, just leave it. Kenyans can decipher for themselves if you did or you did not. The more you talk about it and you want to own every statement, and you're becoming also all over the place, Gachagua hata wewe enda pole pole. Hii mambo ingine inaweza fanya watu, people can start thinking we have agendas.
Indeed.
So you need to slow down.
Yeah, and people will think also, of course, you celebrating the ill health of Right Honorable Raila Odinga, just as you're saying that you're politicizing it. But the question is, do you think also the truth will out when we have the ODM at 20? If he does not really appear? Because, of course, he is a figure. He's the poster child of ODM.
I think that if you look back in history, because that's the best mark I can give you, certain political situations change a country. The death of Tomboya was so significant. The assassination of Degama Pinto, Awins Kodek, J.M. Karaoke, when we lost Mzee Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And actually, when I went to Parliament buildings to say goodbye to Mzee Moi, I was shocked at the many Kenyans who came, who were not necessarily KANU supporters in the beginning, but who are mourning a great leader in the nation. So I think that, this issue of Raila Odinga is very tricky for the opposition and very, very, very tricky for Kenyans. Because Raila Odinga is loved in equal measure as he's loathed. Was it Wamalwa Kijana who said? So he's not somebody who you can casually handle. I think my own advice would be that Raila Odinga is accorded all the respect, all the dignity that his age and his position require. Raila Odinga has been a father of this nation for 40 years. Raila Odinga went to jail for more than 9 years, suffering the indignity. In fact, if anything has affected his health, it's because of the sacrifice of Kenyans. Raila Odinga, to me, is a martyr. He's a hero. Raila Odinga is an enigma and a great Kenyan for whom the day Raila will fall, I shall cry. But I shall never stop telling Baba that I don't agree with you about Kasongo. But that has nothing to do with his health. That has nothing to do with my wish that he gets better. And that we have a democratic contest where Baba disagrees with his son, Tony Gachoka, and I beat him when he's alive. And I go to Bondo and I tell him, say, hapa ulianguka, tulipigana na wewe na lakini nikakushinda. That I would like, but I would not want to go to Bondo to bury Raila. It will break my heart completely. Right.
I wish him well. If indeed he is taken ill, and wherever he is also, if he's taking a good rest as well, we wish him well too. Thank you so much. So we want just also to look also at the issue at hand right now, which is today was a big day of the IBC with the nomination. And I know we were expecting also Didmas here. I think time is far much spent. He's not shown up, so we'll just continue with you.
Could I deal with Didmas' issue as we move on?
Yeah, did he check it out?
No, he must have been told by Peter Kaluma. If you are invited where Tony Gachoka is, please don't show up. I must admit before I came,
yes.
I called Eugene Wamalwa. He had just escorted his candidate to get the nomination
That's
approved.
Panyako?
Panyako,
yes,
as the DAPK candidate in Malava.
Yes.
And he told me, listen, Tony, as much as you are looking forward to meet Didmas Baraza, once he has been told who you are, he will not show up. So if he does show up, could you speak less English? So wherever Didmas you are, let me say in absence, when you come back, I'll be ready for you. Now that you're not here,
we wanted to have known also what really happened.
No, I was told you not.
Said Panyako was in UDA, now he's running also with the DAP, K. Purty. We have David Ndakwa, will be running also under the UDA ticket. We have Alliance for Real Change, that is James Sinaji. He's been given also, I think, a sporting chance by the IBC officials because he did not present his letter of retirement. So he has until tomorrow, I think, by 4 o'clock to do so that we'll know how many candidates they will be running in the Malava. So it would be nice to have had him, to have had also Didmas here to just clarify some of issues as well from the end.
Look, I can't speak for Didmas, but I can understand why he has run. In fact, many people ask me when the debate will come, which is inevitable, between Tony Gachoka and Arthur Johnson Sakaja and a guy called Babu Owino. I look forward to this debate because I'm running for the Nairobi gubernatorial position.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward because, it's okay to be the star on social media.
Yeah, we have Gakuya as well who's running.
Who?
Yeah.
Who is that? Sorry. But anyway, if you want me to be less polite, I
Yes.
can. I understand that there are people who joined Gachoka's party, Wamunyoro, DCP. Among them was Gakuya and a man called Nyakera,
Yes.
or something like
Irongo Nyakera.
Irogu Nyakera. I understand that. And I understand that at that point they thought they would be flag bearers in Nairobi. There is no doubt that Nairobi is a three-way race right now between Tony Gachoka, Babu Owino, and Sakaja. Now, my problem with Babu Owino is that today in the morning he is in Wiper, he endorses Kalonzo Musyoka, and Kalonzo endorses him. The next day he's with Gathoni wa Mushomba and Sifuna in something called Kenya, something Mpya.
Kenya Moja.
Kenya Moja. And they are going to have a presidential candidate and they are going to run. Then he moves from there and he says, I can run as an independent. You know, if I were Babu Owino, but you know he's younger, I would tell him, first of all, go home to the drawing table, rework your drawing table. When you are sure, announce it. But don't announce and then go and plan. Becoming governor of Nairobi is a serious business. You cannot do it on the fly. That every day you wake up, you metamorphosize to something. You know, Babu, choose your side. Tony Gachoka is ready for you, but choose a side. You can't jump every day. You become unstable. Even the people who want to support you, like Kalonzo and others, they wonder what kind of man are you? Are you with Sifuna and his group? Okay, you're welcome. Are you with ODM? You're welcome. Are you with Kalonzo? Are you alone? Just make a decision. And I want to tell people like Babu Owino. The other day I saw people saying they want the Gen Z to register. Babu Owino has been removing flyers every day. Gen Z register. They are not listening to him. The IBC data is that the Gen Zs are not registering. So I think people have to be very careful about false prophecies, that believing that they have won a race that has not begun. So I want to be clear, in terms of the side of the government, UDA and ODM, Sakaja is their candidate. And Sakaja will be a formidable candidate. And I think, in a Tony Gachoka Johnson Sakaja race, it will be something worth Nairobians' time. And I think that Sakaja knows that after this is all done, there will be a candidate that will face him in the general election. And the reason you see me talking about Nyakera and Gakuya is because, you see, they thought by entering Gachoka's party, DCP, there will be a wave. And that wave will escalate them to national prominence. It doesn't work like that in politics. In politics, first of all, what you must do is be confident about your candidature. And the party you choose has to have a reason. So why did Tony Gachoka join KANU? I joined KANU because the only other party I've been a member of was ODM for the last couple of years. I really was even tempted to join DAPK of Wamalwa. And the reason is I do not like joining a Kikuyu party. I like joining a national party. And the reasons why I felt comfortable eventually in KANU is because we have to find a way in which we go beyond the comfort of our ethnicity and go for the strength of our ideas. And I think that if KANU can be able to become a rejuvenated party, one that is focusing on ideology, social democracy, and the populism that put it in power, then KANU can give all the parties in power a run for their money. Why? Because what KANU is doing is national. We want to run candidates in Baringo. We want to run candidates in Nairobi, in Kariobangi North, where KANU is running Peter Kariuki Ng'ang'a as a candidate. And I can tell you that I'll come here to see you after the 27th of November. I think KANU will win the Nairobi MCA seat in Kariobangi.
Of course, everyone who is coming here from different parties, they will say that at the end of the day that KANU will win, or their party will win, or UDA will win. I'm not so sure when you say that Gakuya has joined DCP. I don't know where he did, or is in association with DCP. It would be good to clarify that, because the last time I checked, he had not changed parties, right? But maybe in association and in defense of...
So host the first debate.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to join. Who do you say, Gakuya?
Yes. Yeah. Well, we'll look for Gakuya also.
Yeah. I'd like to have a debate.
Okay. Yeah. So is the party leader Gideon Moi sponsoring you?
Okay, first of all, I want to talk about Gideon in a very passionate way. Gideon and I have been friends since we were toddlers. Gideon and I were at Strathmore, and then Gideon moved to St. Mary's when we were young people or young students. So I did not know Gideon Moi in politics. I knew Gideon Moi when I was growing up. My student leader now, Vincent Ogutu, is the head of Strathmore University.
Dr. Vincent Ogutu.
Yes, Dr. Vincent Ogutu is my age mate and was my classmate. And in fact, we shared a desk. So Vincent Ogutu and I would compete in school. He was either number one or me number one. So we fought throughout our school life. Gideon was in Strathmore and then later went to St. Mary's. Gideon Moi has been a friend of mine all these years. And, you know, of course, when the politics of the 90s were going on, Gideon was not very happy because, you know, I didn't agree with his father, the late retired President Moi. And so we had a break in our friendship because President Moi's government was not one which I supported. And, but Gideon loved his father and completely did so. But I want to surprise Kenyans. When I was jailed in 1999 at Committee Maximum Prison, I was jailed by the Moi regime. But both Gideon and his brother Philip Moi came to see me at committee. So I have friendships with Gideon that are beyond his father. Gideon Moi and Philip Moi have been my friends through and through. When I did my journalistic career, Gideon Moi employed me to be in KTN Point Blank. I was the host of KTN Point Blank for more than 1 year, and Kenyans loved the show. By the time we finished KTN Point Blank, we had millions of viewers. And so I have worked with Gideon as a friend.
Yes.
I've worked at KTN. And right now, from time to time, the Standard Media Group and KTN ask my views as to what I think about the country. So Gideon Moi is a committed Democrat, a man who is putting his own personal self and wealth at risk because, you know, people are telling me today, oh, we are hearing rumors Gideon Moi is going to State House. I say, how? And yesterday, I was in a meeting at Standard Media Group discussing our media policy.
Okay, but where is Gideon Moi? He's not in the united opposition. We don't see him around, you know, going about doing their politics or politicking. He's not pronouncing one term. He's a no-show. Up until now is when we see him coming up now, wanting to run for the senatorial seat. Is he sitting on a fence? Where is he?
Am I allowed to give you breaking news?
Please do.
Gideon Toet Moi will be a candidate for president in 2027. The reason Gideon Moi is running for the senatorial seat in Baringo is because after sitting down and analyzing the political developments of the country, he could not abandon the people of Baringo and the people of Kenya by seeming to sit out a difficult election. It is clear that everybody knows.
Don't you think he's really pinched for time? Why would you run for senatorial seat and you want to, you know, go for the highest office?
So I'm giving you...
At the end of the day...
Well, I'm giving you...
Yes, you should be concentrating on building your campaign machinery and team right now instead of a senatorial seat.
So let me give TV 47 some historical facts. Mwai Kibaki ran twice and won the third time. Uhuru Kenyatta ran for president and lost. Raila Odinga has run 5 times and lost. So I want to be clear about what I've said, that Gideon Moi is running for president. Against you saying because Gideon Moi is running, he's doing it any different from anybody else. What I'm saying is that Gideon Moi must stand with the country. And he must stand in this by-election to be counted. The Baringo contest for senatorial for Gideon Moi is not a win or lose issue. It's an integrity issue. Because even today, the whole of social media has been peddling lies and falsehoods that Gideon Moi was seen at State House, that Gideon Moi is shaking the hand of William Ruto, that Gideon Moi wants to meet Ruto. You know, all these falsehoods come because Gideon Moi has decided that he wants to have a run at the presidency. Why, you ask me, why is he not in the united opposition? Because Gideon Moi does not say things which are false. He doesn't go to tell people that I'm going to back you. I want to be very clear. I want to be unavoidably clear. Gideon Moi and KANU are running presidency, governor, MPs and MCAs throughout the country in 2027. I want to be as clear.
So is he going it solo? Because the way we're seeing the political formations, and the political dynamics is you have to be in a coalition. Either you are in the united opposition, which is about to, come up with their name that we'll know in future. This is the name of a coalition, and this is opposition. And we have the Kenya Kwanza, of course, coalition as well. So there's no way, two ways about it. You have to be in a coalition unless you want to be the one losing the election.
I want to be very clear. The coalition experiment in Kenya has never worked. The coalition experiment in Kenya was started by Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga when he had the Pentagon. And after the Pentagon, he went to CORD. After CORD, he went to NASA. After NASA, he went to Azimio. Now he's in broad-based, and he still never won the presidency. Now, I want to be very clear to you so that there is an avoidance of doubt. On behalf of the Kenya African National Union, as a member of KANU, and as a friend of Gideon Moi, I'm telling Kenya that Gideon Moi will be a presidential candidate in 2027. And as part of that integrity, win or lose, Gideon Moi must defend the Baringo senatorial position. Because in this by-election, Kenyans across the country in Bere North, in Malava, in Kariobangi North, where KANU is running a candidate, Gideon Moi must not be absent from that race on the basis that at Rift Valley, iko kona hii. Gideon Moi must run because he's a national leader. Gideon Moi must run to give confidence to those who think that this is a mountain we cannot climb. So therefore,
yes,
it is clear that we have chosen to be absent in these coalitions. It is true that KANU has not participated in rallies, in political meetings of the united opposition. It is important to say KANU has done so because KANU has a plan. As the oldest political party, I've been hearing with a lot of amusement, ODM saying how old they are at 20. KANU started forming from 1964 when Jomo Kenyatta was now being allowed by the Queen to become Prime Minister.
But where is KANU? Because we've seen you've lost traction, you're rebranded. We cannot feel the KANU that was vibrant, under the leadership of Moi then. Of course, it was during the single-party regime as well. But it seems to have tapered off with time. Even the recent polls, you were nowhere. You amongst the, some of the top parties that were listed on the TIFA survey poll. So it seems even with the rebranding, we cannot feel the gravitas, the chutzpah, so to speak, of KANU.
So I want to...
Is it a dying party that you're still... they normally say that if the horse is dead, dismount.
This is very interesting to me because, the Chinese have a saying that it's not the size of the wave, but the motion of the ocean that moves the ship. What has become clear to me is these parties that are formed and die. The other day I was told by a friend who's registered in a party that there is 179 political parties that are now gazetted in Kenya. 179 parties registered in Kenya. And I wanted to say to you that the people who are doing all this are trying to cut corners. And people are saying, Tony Gachoka, why did you enter KANU? You could have entered somewhere. We like you. You'd have just... And I say, I want to walk the tough path. I want to climb the highest mountain. I want to run the longest race because what has happened, the people who do shortcuts have betrayed you. The people who run short races and reach there, wakifika wameisha. Sakaja only joined the earthquake and became a nominee. Nobody even knew. Sakaja never even did a nomination. He just went Mudavadi. They said earthquake. Ruto said he's a guy. Kwisha. Polycarp Igathe, nobody knew where he came from. He sat with Uhuru Kenyatta's brother, Muho Kenyatta, somewhere in a golf course. They did some deal of, I don't know what the business deal. I know you have laws of libel, so I'll stop there. But they did some deal. And then it was Polycarp Igathe who stood to run. Now, Polycarp Igathe and Johnson Sakaja never came from the people. They came from political deals by fly-by-night parties. And that is why we need to go back to the roots and say that we need to develop parties which have got convictions and ideologies. We need to walk the long race. We need to have a foundation approach to building a building. You dig the basement, you put the concrete, you put in the stones, and you gonga paka mawe ishikane ili sasa weke floor. You must build the house up on an upright foundation. You cannot wake up in the morning on knee-jerk reactions. And that is why I'm saying to you this, that if KANU shows you through this Baringo race, and Nairobi, where we are running Kariobangi North, KANU will show the country that you mean long parties can wait their time and can show their worth. And the reason I'm saying this is, why is the country today in social media discussing KANU? Why are they saying KANU went to see William Ruto, that Gideon went to see William Ruto? Why are they not saying that somebody else went to see William Ruto? Why is Gideon Moi's declaration of running in Baringo now the center of discussion? It is because if Gideon Moi wins the Baringo senatorial position, the beginning of the end of the UDA government starts on that day. Because if Ruto cannot hold the backyard, it means that is the end.
And if it doesn't? Will it now be a bellwether of he's also running for the presidency, that he's there now running to lose again? Gideon, I think this will be the greatest litmus test for Gideon Moi.
Luckily for my boyhood friend, Gideon, he has launched the best and the wisest. In Nairobi, we are here. We have candidates as KANU across the country. We have candidates in Western Kenya. When these results are done, KANU will be on the roster. The other day, I watched the Olympic Championships in Tokyo, and Kenya was number 2 to the United States, having won an incredible number of medals, 11, because the table normally scores who has won. I want to tell the country here at TV47, KANU will be on the roster. KANU will be on the table of victors. I can tell the people of Nairobi, the people who are going to vote in Kariobangi North are going to send a signal that yours truly, Tony Gachoka, is the next governor. And so I want to be clear that we are not just fighting wars in Baringo. We are fighting wars across the country. But we cannot fight wars hiding. We can only fight wars by coming out. And that is why I came here to face the mighty Didbas Baraza, because I'm told he's a man who doesn't spare his words or his venom, and that he would have come here to face me. I hope when you rearrange this, we could have discussed some of the things which are happening to Kenya Kwanza, and particularly there in Western. Because I wanted to tell Didmas Baraza that the time for short commentary are gone. The time for, acrobatics are gone. This is the time now we have to redefine the Kenyan state. Why am I saying so? By elections, as I told you during the time of Kemunya in Kipipiri, redefined how Kibaki's heirs were seen under Uhuru. So Kemunya, who grew from the Kibaki era, wanted comfort in the Uhuru government. And Uhuru could see that something here was going wrong, and there was some change. So by-elections sometimes can bring a realignment, as happened in Musambweni. So I think that if the opposition wins Mbeere North and wins Malava, then that's a warning shot to Ruto that neither Kindiki nor Musalia Mudavadi can form long-term partners for him to win the presidency in 2027. So I am predicting here at TV47 that the opposition will win Malava, the opposition will win Mbeere North, and KANU will win Kariobangi North here in Nairobi. And if we do so, the questions are whether Gideon wins Baringo or not becomes a bonus. And why I'm saying it becomes a bonus is because William Ruto's home ground is where he must not fail. So if he can fail or struggle to win Baringo, it shows that nationally he has a problem. Finally, I wanted to say this. The IBC has an opportunity, and I appeal to them.
No, before we go to the IBC, because what makes you think that KANU can just spring out of the oblivion and obscurity? People have been, so to speak, on the campaign trail, albeit very early, as we are heading towards 2027. And then this is the problem, that we normally see, they fly way below the radar, then towards the Towards now, the nearing of the general election is when now they pop up their heads and say, oh, I'm running for presidency, I'm running for senatorial seat. And they have been very quiet.
So
how then do you relate to this Wananchi? That they have not been seeing you and you're not just popping up because you want their vote. There has not been any relationship. We've not heard you commenting on the issues that actually affecting Kenya. We've not heard you commenting on SHA. We've not heard you commenting on the capitation. We've not heard you commenting on so many issues. And then you want to come and run.
Okay,
what discernible difference will you bring?
I think I will come to that very quickly. But let me just put it for the record that William Ruto has been a member of KANU for more than 20 years. Raila Odinga was Secretary General of KANU. Musalia Mudavadi was a member of KANU. Kalonzo Musyoka is still a member of KANU.
He's still a member of KANU.
Yes. So, wait, please, I'm coming.
They bolted.
No, wait.
You should tell you something as well.
You are asking me who is KANU, and I'm telling you that the alternatives that you are saying have all been in KANU. Now, let's come to agendas. You say we talk about nothing else. Let me talk about agenda number one, the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, where the other day a drug dealer was caught in Heathrow trafficking drugs. It's a matter of public record that it's Tony Gachoka who took Guatamandani to court. It's a matter of public record that it is the Tony Gachoka case that stopped the Andani deal. It's a matter of public record that in the Jomo Kenyatta versus Andani group,
that is
I was
how did he stop? How did he stop?
But I am saying you, any Kenyan can Google. The Andani case, Tony Gachoka versus Andani case, is the case that stopped the Andani matter. There is no other petition. The LSK had begun a judicial review of the matter, and I am happy that they had done so. But the petition that was adopted by the court was Tony Gachoka versus JKIA and Guatamandani. And some of these things I'm holding back for the debates when we come to gubernatorial contest. I am saying this as a matter of public record. The parties in the case were the government of Kenya, Kenya Airports Union workers, everybody else. My lawyers were Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa, together with Kibe Muigai and others. I'm telling you, as a matter of public record, I rescued, and my case fought for JKIA. It's a matter of public record. And we'll ask other aspirants in Nairobi what they did, including the governor, including Bobby Owino. We'll ask, what did you do on JKIA? I will thank people like Nelson Amenya and others who are involved in whistleblowing. But I want to tell you, the test of the pudding is in the eating. And I told you, we don't speak about the money we spent or the time we did. But I went to court on JKI. I'm proud about that. And as a consequence, look at what happened the other day when drugs were found at the airport. Had this airport been in the hands of Adani, what would have Adani done? Because we would have no control of what happens within the airport. So to say that because people are not necessarily shouting the most, that they are not doing much, it is not necessary to shout the most. What is important is to build your resume. When I was a journalist in this country...
No, it shows you have a flash of interest of what is really happening in the country.
Yes.
Yes, that you're actually involved in the processes of the country.
Yes.
But you cannot just be, out of sight completely, and then you just pop up that I'm running for a senatorial seat. Hey, can you give me your votes? I'm running for the presidency. That has been the issue. I mean, engage in debates, engage in the real issues so that we see what is your side of you, or what side are you taking in regard of the issues that are bedeviling the country. We've not seen that with Gideon Moi.
What I don't agree with you, Gideon Moi is the largest shareholder and the proprietor owner of the Standard Media Group and KTN and the Standard. I want to say this to this country.
So what has that got to do with
you are saying and you want to answer the question.
No, but I'm just wondering where you're going.
You're asking and I'm answering. Mm-hmm. I want to say, just like this TV station is doing its role, the Standard newspaper and KTN have been exemplary in providing what was described in the American Civil War as the fourth estate, where the media have to play a role, where government collapses, where the institutions of government, parliament, and the rest are unable. Standard Media Group, at great loss to Gideon Moi, at great loss to him and advertisers, have continued to speak for the people and hold truth to power. every morning and every day, the burning headlines at the Standard Media Group and KTN show that Gideon is committed to
But we need to uncouple.
I want to say this to you.
We need to uncouple.
No, I want to say this to you because he's not here to speak for himself. I want to tell you, because these are the things that make Elon Musk, Elon Musk, because he's in space, he's doing Tesla, his actions speak for him, and therefore you judge him. You can only judge Honorable Gideon Moi by his actions. Has Gideon Moi been idle? And I'm saying no. Gideon Moi could have chosen any other route. But what has happened, his media group has stood steadfast and has stood very, very, pointedly at the government, holding it to account. And therefore, even if he doesn't say so, his actions show the yeye ni mzalendo, ni mwanaume, amesimama gangari na amesimama na wananchi wa Kenya. Na kuna wengi wale wajafanya hivyo.
But we need to uncouple, in the enterprise with the politician, so that we hear the voice of a politician.
But
Kenyans are not voting for Standard Media Group.
No, but Donald Trump began his career, first of all, by speaking truth to power and saying, look, I was in NBC, I did this, I said, what I'm saying, everyone has a CV, and everybody must say what they did. And I'm telling you that as far as I'm concerned, once the Gen Z protest fell, because Raila Odinga and ODM compromised with the government, it was Gideon Moi's group of media, of KTN and the Standard, alongside many others, who have stood their ground. And they have stood their ground whatever the cost, so that the Kenyans can every day know the truth and can be able to be comforted that at the end, opinion is free, but facts are sacred, which is a cardinal rule of journalism. So here today, I will stand with Gideon Moi. I will stand with TV47's honesty by bringing me here, but I will also stand with the Standard Media Group and KTN for fighting the long struggle and for fighting for the underprivileged and making sure that they hold the government of the day to account in order that the people have a better government. That's all we want. We want a better government.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to the issue of IBC that you wanted to just touch on it as well. And from your own assessment, do you think you have enough confidence in the current status of IBC, with the commissioners, with all that saga that we had also with the panel?
I think that's the best question
yes.
you've asked me tonight, and I'll just be sincere that the Supreme Court had a major ruling that should give every Kenyan happiness, sorry, not concern. Many times when I have time to talk to my friends in the opposition, who are often bringing aspirations against the IBC, Kalonzo Musyoka or Amalwa or Gideon Moi or others, I always say, remember that the Supreme Court ruled that we will test every poll from the polling station, so that what now will happen, tallying has become a very secondary part of the electoral process. The primary part of an electoral process is the polling station. And so as long as you have the agents and the data in the polling station correct, tabulation with this current era of electronics and smartphones and whatever is really very easy to do in split seconds.
Yes.
So the day of rigging or elections being rigged at a center where votes are tallied are gone. I want to encourage every Kenyan to know that if you vote at a polling station and you are concerned about anything, stay there. Just vote, stay outside, let the agents count the votes, let the thing be signed. If you secure your vote at the polling station, it will be secure everywhere else. Because very soon they will take a picture of the result of that polling station, and within seconds it will be everywhere in the country. So I think this idea of rigging elections is a cake. The issue of rigging elections is something that's passed in the past. It is just like today if you have a boarding pass in an aeroplane, but it's electronic, the chances of now changing it by hand don't exist. The same way you have a password in an email. If you have a good password, change it, you can. So Kenyans need to also take abreast and take on board the new tools that are available, including the smartphone, and instantaneous information. Secure the polling station, secure the data, share it, and it will be tallied automatically by different people. And it is not possible, therefore, to rig an election because you have every individual polling station to be judged as its own. And I think from that point of view, you should not so much concentrate on the holders of the IBC, but on their professional conduct. In fact, for me, the new IBC have a chance to not only do a good job, but to elevate democracy. Because you see, if they elevate democracy, it will mean that they themselves may have favorites who lose, and they still do not tilt their hand. A good, credible, accountable IBC cannot even care who is elected. It must just care that the people have had the opportunity to express their way. And if Kenya has that through this IBC will do what no other IBC has done. It will give birth, true birth, to the democratic evolution of the 2010 Constitution, which is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And the reason that's important is because if Tony Gachoka loses an election, I should be the first one to congratulate the winner. I should be the first one to honor the process. And therefore, we want in this country to stop this issue that if you lose an election, that this country must burn. If you lose an election, that everything else has stopped. Mm-hmm. Elections are not about the candidates. Mm-hmm. Elections are about the people who choose them. Mm-hmm. And as long as this IBC can give the priority to the choosers mm-hmm. by making sure they have ID cards, they are safe where they vote, they are on time, that their staff educate and teach the voters how to vote. Mm-hmm. For example, Debari, if somebody votes an X because they don't want to elect Tony Gachoka, yes. they may spoil the vote because they may wanted to vote for Sakaja, mm-hmm. but they put an X on Tony Gachoka mm-hmm. instead of a tick at Sakaja. So people must be taught how to vote. If you put one mark on a ballot paper, mm-hmm. that mark means that's the candidate you want. You don't put multiple ticks and so on. So the IBC have a duty to train, educate. They have a duty as well to ensure that the priority of elections moves from leaders to the people.
Right.
Finally, completely, to motivate these young people to join, they must feel that elections are credible. If young people are told, oh, it doesn't matter, they will rig, they will do what, then they don't have the motivation, and then you have what you call despondency and lack of interest.
Right. Thank you. We need to take a short break, and when we circle back, I will ask you, from your own assessment and analysis, what do you think about the crowded presidential race, now that you've mentioned also that Gideon Moi will be, of course, on the ballot for the presidential race as well? We have more than 15 candidates who, so far, they've made that pronouncement. You've seen also recently David Maraga joining the UGM party. So he has decided that he will run under the United Green Movement. So we wanted just to know, do you foresee any presidential presidential runoff that will be happening because of this crowded? How will it be neck and neck? Will it be a wide berth? I'd love to hear what your comments will be. We take a short break right now. Don't go away. You're watching The Insight here on TV 47.